Welcome back, Gingies. Today it's time to go back to the classroom because we're gonna take a look at how you can read your enemies. So let's get right into it. Hey, you there. While the video is loading, you have some time to subscribe and like the video. I would really appreciate that. Thank you and enjoy the video. Okay, so even though I'm an AWPer and not an IGL, sometimes I still need to call during my games, and of course you can always help your IGL and give them IDs to help outplay the enemy. I think this is something that's a bit overlooked. A lot of guides focus on how you can improve yourself, how you can get better at the game, how you can practice, but sometimes all you need to do is read the opponent and outplay them. And I'd like to start this video with explaining to you why it's so important to outplay your opponent. If you're able to make the opponent scared and let them go to A, or you're able to mentally break them and constantly outplay them, that's just gonna win you the game and you don't even need to aim good. So outplaying your opponent and knowing which threats he's gonna do and getting in their head is just a very important part about the game, which is also the reason that I made a mentality guide a few uploads ago, because it's important that the opponent isn't able to get inside your head and you get inside their head. One of the best examples that I can give you for this in the pro scene is the pro player coldzera. coldzera was very well known for being a really good player in outplaying and reading opponents. I mean, one of his most well-known plays is just him absolutely reading the enemy. So let's take a look at that.
Spamming up through the bench, leaving coldzera in a 1-on-4. There's the first. Looking for a second, he connects it. Oh, and he gets a third as well. Surely he's not going to pull this one off. Oh, coldzera! The man, the myth, the beast! What a play!
It's like every time you see Cold alive in a 1vx situation, you can never feel too comfortable that it's actually going to go in the favor of the ones who have the numbers, because Cold's just that type of player, just isolating everyone. They did peek him one by one, sure, but he even actively peeked that cat player. It's not like that guy overextended. He just delivers time and time again. You gotta love coldzera.
Taking a look at the clip, it just shows that coldzera absolutely outplayed them. He just had way better positioning because he knew what they were gonna do and he kind of conditioned them into doing it. Which is the first thing I want to talk about. You need to try and condition your enemy into doing what you want them to do. Let's take an example that isn't from a pro player, so it's more relatable for you. Sometimes you like to have fun and just play 5v5s with my friends. Obviously my friends have played like 1,000 hours with me, so they know my playstyle and they know what I'm gonna do. But that's the thing, I know that they know that, so I kind of condition them into doing what I want to do, right? For example, they know I'm gonna play B, so they try to avoid B, but I know that they're gonna do that, so that's why I go to A most of the time. Another example I can use is eSportal, which is kind of like Faceit, but the community is way smaller. So most of the times you get queued against the same or with the same people, which helps quite a lot because you're able to read them more easily. For example, yesterday I was playing a game on eSportal and I was playing against somebody that I already played against. On the same map, I was playing on Vertigo. So on Vertigo, the last time I played against this guy, I was sitting sandbags and I got a 4K. I absolutely demolished him. And he already recognized me, so he knew I was gonna do it again on the pistol round. Which is why I didn't position myself in sandbags and I took a totally different position. Because I knew they were gonna check it, and well, they just ran past me after because they checked sandbags, they didn't see me there, so they thought I was on the other side, and I still won the pistol round again because I just played a different position. Hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of how important it is to condition players into doing what you want them to do. This makes it way more easy to win games, right? If the opponent is just doing what you want them to do and you kinda got a grasp on them, well, then you just win the game. But how do you condition a player into doing what you want them to do? Well, I think there's two ways that are very effective into conditioning a player. Let's talk about the first one. The first one, probably the best one, is utility usage. And this is why utility is such a big part of the game. You gotta take a look at utility in a different type of way. Sometimes you're not using utility to keep the enemy outside of the side. Sometimes you're using your utility to send them to another position. So let's take, for example, an A execute on Mirage. So you smoke CT, you smoke stairs, you smoke connector, you smoke jungle. what is the opponent that is playing in jungle going to do? Well, this is where you try and look at patterns. Some players use a lot of patterns, which makes them really easy to read and to predict. Let's say that the guy in jungle has an AWP and he's just an average player. So what is his next step going to be? You know that the AWP is probably going to rotate to CT. You've already outplayed your opponent and you can take a very good positioning to win your fight against this AWPer. Obviously this doesn't always work because every player is a different player, but well, the more rounds you play against them, the easier it will be to recognize their patterns. Every player uses patterns. The point I'm trying to get at is that with using your utility, you're kind of moving the enemy around to positions you want them to move to. So this round I want to execute A and I want to take CT control. I know there isn't going to be a player CT because they've never done this before, and I feel confident that if there's a player I can take control of it. So in this scenario, how do we use utility to make the enemy take the gunfight with me and make them rotate towards me? Well, easy, you just smoke stairs, connector and jungle, the players rotate away to CT and they are out of position because they expected me to smoke CT as well because we did that the round prior to this, but this time I have pushed CT and I'm ready to take the gunfight. Another example which is quite easy is Molotovs, right? Basically all you're doing with a Molotov is trying to move an opponent away from somewhere. You're using it to check a corner, for example. Like if you're going palace and you molly under, the goal you're trying to reach is just moving the player from under to another position. So with knowing this, you know that utility is a very important way to just move people around and get the player to play the way you want them to play. Hopefully this makes a bit of sense. Try and look at the opponent as a puppet. You want to move this puppet around. You can't move a puppet just like this, right? You need strings to move it. Well, these strings, they are your utility. You're just using these strings, your utility, to move the puppet around to the position you want them to go. A second way to easily condition your opponent into doing something you want them to do is just by repeating the same thing. I already said that you need to take a look at patterns, but of course the opponent is doing this as well. By doing the same thing and repeating the same thing, you're conditioning them into doing what you want them to do. As soon as you've already won 4 rounds in a row by pushing B, you're gonna know that they're gonna play with more people on B, that they're gonna use more utility. Well, basically this way you're just using patterns in your advantage, right? You're giving an opponent a pattern, they think, well, they're gonna repeat that pattern, and then you just wipe the floor and change things up, which makes it really easy for them to be out positioned and be in a bad spot, and will probably just win you the round by doing that. But repeating something can also make the opponent scared that you're gonna change things up. If you rush B 4 times in a row and you win it 4 times in a row, the opponent might say, well, this time they're definitely gonna go A, because there's no way they go B 5 times in a row. And then you just go B again. But that is something for you to decide while playing the game. You need to read the enemy, you need to get inside their head, and you need to recognize patterns that these players use, so you can outmaneuver them. So these are the 2 biggest things you can use to condition your opponent in doing something that you want them to do. Which brings me to, how do I find patterns and how do I recognize them? If a player from CT decides to push palace, he jumps up on the box, jumps into palace, and he gets an entry, he's probably going to repeat that the next round because he knows that it works. But it could also be that it fails, he jumps up, he jumps into palace, and he gets instantly killed. Well, some players, if they get mad, they like to repeat the same thing even though it doesn't work, because they think, well, the enemy is not gonna expect me to do it twice, this time it will definitely work, and they're going to do the same thing. And again, I am going to talk about the mentality video, but this is something important that you need to focus on not doing, and that's getting frustrated. A lot of players get frustrated because something doesn't work, and they're just gonna keep repeating it until it works. So that's already 2 big ways you can recognize patterns. The first one being a player making a play that works out, which he's probably going to repeat because it won his team the round. The other one being the player getting frustrated, making a play that doesn't work, and he's probably going to keep repeating that until it does work. Well, sometimes a player will just say, well, I did something, it doesn't work, I am just going to do something different. And then you might say, well, this is kind of stupid, right? Because you're basically telling me if a player does something and it doesn't work, he might say, I'm not going to do it again, or I am going to do it again. So you're basically just counteracting with yourself. Well, this is something that you need to decide during your game. This is not something I can do. I can't read every player that exists in the world, right? I'm giving you the tools, I'm giving you the information to read your opponent during the game. Just try and use this information to gain an advantage in the game and try to read them. Every player differs from each other. Not every player will do the same thing and not every player will have the same mindset. So it's for you to decide this during the game. Which brings me to 3 big tips I would like to give you that will make it more easier for you to find and recognize these patterns. And the first one is a very important one, and it's that you need to know your map. Work on your map awareness and map sense, and this will definitely make it more easy for you to read your opponent. Let's take an easy pattern as example. You're playing T-side Mirage and you know that your enemy is going to have an AWP. Where is he going to play? Well, most of you probably thought, well, he's going to play window. Well, that's correct. Most people just go towards window with an AWP because they're used to doing that. This is just a very easy pattern to recognize and a small example of how easy it is to find these patterns and to read them. By just recognizing this pattern, you already have so much information. You know there's going to be a window in AWP. You know that you need to smoke it off if you want to go mid. If you don't go mid, you know that they are going to know that you're not mid because he's holding it with an AWP. Let's say you do an A execute and you smoke off jungle. Where is the AWPer going to go? Well, 90% of the time he's just going to do the same thing as fucking half the player base and he's going to go CT. Again, easy pattern to read, easy for you to know that if you smoke jungle, the AWPer is going to go to CT. And this is where I would like to add, if you are this AWP player, try and change things up because it's going to be easy to read and recognize your pattern. Have some balls, jump out of window. Don't be like 90% of the player base and go CT. They are going to expect that, but they aren't going to expect you being in connector. This might give you a huge advantage because they will be out of position because they think the AWPer is going to come CT. Having map awareness and map sense is really important because it's going to help you read these common strategies and these common spots. Not only that, it's going to help you also read uncommon plays and uncommon spots. For example, let's say you're playing T-side Mirage and you are going up against an eco. The enemy is probably going to think, well, I need to play an uncommon spot, I don't have any guns, I need to catch them off guard. You know that they are going to play uncommon spots. And having a bit of map awareness, let's say you go A, what is the most played uncommon spot on an eco round? Well, yes, the opponent is probably going to be hiding in Ninja. So as you can see, having map awareness will even help you read uncommon spots and uncommon plays. So try and work on your map knowledge and on your map sense. The second big tip I want to give you, and I can't say this enough, watch pro games. Watch your demos. Please, just do it. It doesn't take that much time, and watching pro games is going to make it more easy for you to recognize patterns because a lot of these pro players also use these patterns. Not only that, when you're watching your demo, don't just focus on watching at what you're doing. Try to watch at what the opponent is doing as well. How does the opponent respond to me playing this position? How does the opponent respond to me using this utility? How does the opponent respond to me making this play? How does the opponent respond to this strategy? It's very important to use your demos this way and not only learn from what you're doing, but also from what an enemy is doing or how he responds to different types of things.
Okay, so I downloaded this cheat, and the thing is actually that I'm not capping, and I don't want you guys in the chat to start installing cheats, but these cheats is kind of what made me good at the game. I'm not even capping. Because I was kind of clueless. Like, this was before I even went to the launch we're talking about now. I was like kind of clueless, and when I installed these cheats, I kind of understood all the timings of you know, when could I meet the opponents, how long could I run with a knife, okay, if I get this kill, what reaction is the opponent's gonna do, like all these kind of things, bro, because I was full-on wall hacking. You know what I mean?
Bro, we know you're fucking shit. Shut up. Jesus.
It might not be the best example ever because he's talking about cheating and you shouldn't be cheating in the game, but he does explain it quite correctly. Well, of course he explains it correctly, he's a pro player, but by cheating, he says, I learned a lot of different positions. I learned how people would interact and react to things, and I learned how to read patterns. And my last biggest tip I can give you is ask yourself the question, what would I do? Let's take for example, you're playing Palace and you molly under, and you want to know what the enemy is going to do. Just ask yourself the question, what would I do? Would I go ninja? Would I go to side? Would I smoke off the molly? And trust me, this is definitely going to help you win more games. Let's think back at the beginning of this video on Vertigo, for example. When I'm playing Vertigo, I like to play sandbags on the pistol round when I'm CT. So when I'm T side, I run up ramp and I instantly pre-fire sandbags because I know a lot of players play there and I know this is something that I would do. I've been called a cheater so many times because I do stupid stuff like this, because I just know that it's something that I would do, so I know an enemy is probably going to do it as well. And then you got opponents asking you, well, how did you know I was going to be there? And then my response is just, well, that is something I would do, so that's why I knew you were going to be there. So when you're playing, just try and keep in mind the question, what would I do and how would I respond to this scenario? Sometimes you need to look at CS like it's a game of chess. Like take Blitz from Mongols, for example. I think Blitz is the right name. He used to be like an insane chess player and now he's IGLing for the Mongols, and he's really good at reading opponents and reading strategies because it's kind of the same as chess, right? Everything you do has a response to it. And this is going to be the end of this video. And again, I can't read every player in the world. That's why this video has that much information, because I want to give you all the tools that you need to be able to do this yourself. Just try and read your opponent, try and get into their mind and try and recognize their patterns, and you will definitely win more games. With this, I would like to add again that if you haven't yet, go and check out my mentality guide, because these two videos work really well together. If you get inside the opponent's head and you're sending them messages which get them frustrated, or you're winning rounds and you just type easy in chat or zzz in chat, a lot of players get frustrated by this and start doing stupid stuff. Mentality is really important in this game, especially in this video, because a lot of this is about mentality and a lot of this has psychological factors. So start with understanding your mentality, and then you can get into starting to understand the opponent's mentality. Make sure you have a good mentality so you are not easy to read and you don't have patterns that are very recognizable. I hope this kinda helped you get the essence of reading opponents and recognizing patterns. If you have any more questions, you can ask them in the comments. You can add me on Twitter, ask them there, or even ask me on Discord. I'm here to help you. And lastly, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, Gingies. Peace out.